Well, my name is Efrain Vivanco Maldonado. I am from Quito, Ecuador. I am I am reading this book for about 12 years now. I had an on-site group where I live here. I had an on-site group with 8 or 10 people per week. And after this pandemic, God knows how He does things. We went through another book via the internet, via online, and currently we're about 15, 18 people, of which we are very grateful. Some videos dancing is showing up in my study groups. I've always began meetings with a small prayer. So if you allow me,
pueden repetir mentalmente. Amado Señor Jesucristo,
beloved Jesus, Father Michael, beloved God, my God, Father, my brother, my friend. Thank you for this new day of life. Thank you for water. Thank you for air. Thank you for knowledge. Thank you for obstacles. Thank you for even the challenges and adversity that makes us grow and evolve to arrive to where you are. And thank you especially for having donated yourself or bestowed yourself on this particular planet. Thank you for having chosen us for your last bestowal. Thank you for being born on this specific place. Thank you for the example, your life example, not only for our planet, but for all the universe. Thank you for teaching us that there is only one Father, one God of everything, of all the beings, and that all of us are brothers. Donate your spirit of truth. Amen.
este es un esquema gráfico del nacimiento de Jesús.
Well, this is a graphic scheme of Jesus of Nazareth. This was on August the 21st of year 7 before cease. The source is the Urantia Book, document 7, 119, 120, 121, and 122. Let's begin with a small graph, an allegory of how we currently celebrate Christmas in all the religions and all the Christian religions. In this graph, we have 4 major elements. First, the Star of Bethlehem that is mentioned in the Bible as well as in the Urantia book. Down here, we have the 3 wise men, which are always announced in the small city of Bethlehem, where all the hotels were full when Maria and Jose. And fourth, a nativity scene where Jesus was born. This is a graph of how we currently celebrate the nativity scene where the child is there, where Maria is there, Joseph is there. And we have the 3 wise men, and they appeared later on. And here we look at some animals, donkeys, even some chicken around here. We see sheep that should have never even been here. There was no presence of animals really when Jesus was born. In the year 1223, in the Middle Eve, San Francisco de Assisi in Italy, was the first that did a birth, a meeting where Joseph and Mary was there in a nativity scene, but the child was not there. That's where the tradition comes from. These nativity scenes to remember the birth of our beloved Master Jesus.
El culto de Mitras, los misterios.
Entonces, the cult of Mithras, the mysteries of Egypt and Egypt finally happened after the mystery cults and the adoration of Mithrius. Let's remember that in those times, there were many pagan religions, including Mithraism, which was the largest and biggest of all. So this Mithras cult became very attractive for a broad array of human nature. Mithraism happened in the Roman Empire in the east, from Persia, where this religion, because they took those beliefs wherever they wanted. This new religious rite was a great improvement in terms of the previous cults of the mysteries. Very well. The Roman Empire, on December the 25th, the day when the pagans were celebrating the birth of their god, their sun god Mithras, this pagan religion took the sun as the source of life. And as the longest night was on December the 21st, and from that point, little by little, night became shorter. They adopted from the Babylonical rites the custom of celebrating the 25th of December as the birth of the sun god, source of life, sex, and fertility. In the 5th century, we're talking about 500 years later from the times of Jesus, these pagan customs had been introduced in the Church of Rome in such a way that their leaders, not being able to combat these practices, they Christianized them, substituting the solar god. Remembering that the first Christians celebrated their first meetings in a Mithrius temple. They didn't have a temple yet or a church as we know, and they met in the temples of Mithras, and little by little they started to conquer. All the followers of Mithra became followers of Jesus. Christians, forgive me, Christians from that time, they substituted the date for December 21st. The Mithra worshippers, they said that Mithra was born and they worship Mithra on December the 25th. So the first Christians said that Jesus was born on the 25th of December instead. And they put one date on top of another. From those times forward, we've been celebrating the 25th of December as the date that Jesus was born. But the Urantia book explains how the truth really is. The first early Christians did something similar in America as well. When they arrived, when the priest arrives, the priest that accompanied the clerical church, accompanied the conquistadors, they also began to build temples, Christian temples, on top of indigenous temples. So this is not the first time that the church has done this. To continue, The graph, all Urantia book readers will know this graph. These are the master universe, and then the center we have the eternal Isle of Paradise with its 21 spheres, and the seven Havana circuits, which is the perfect universe of Havana. I'm teaching you, telling you this because what happens is the eternal Son, the second person in the Trinity, gave us the example of donations, and from the eternal Isle of Paradise began to donate itself to the seven circuits of Havana as an example for his children or her children. So the self-bestowal attribute, the Havana self-bestows, this attribute is inherent to paradise sons from the universal Father. In its desire to get closer to the experiences of life of living creatures, subordinate living creatures, several orders of paradise sons reflect the divine nature of the paradise fathers. The eternal Son for the paradise began this practice of self-bestowal. Was the first human being to arrive to the perfect universe of Havana. Following the example of the eternal Son, the first son, the older son, the first Michael, the original Michael, also had seven donations or bestowals in the circuits of Havana. And even though it may be difficult to understand self bestowals, we understand the self bestower of Havana from the eternal Son, the original Michael, literally traverses all the circuits. And the truth is, he shared all to reach deity. This was the original Michael, the firstborn Michael, whom, via the living experience of the pilgrims, went from circuit to circuit, personally crossing together with them each of the different circuits. This was also in the times of Grand Fenda. Another interesting thing is that the Creator Son and the original Michael, they did not appear as people that were visible people, let's say. They didn't occupy a body like is done by Creator Sons that later do their bestowals. So Creator Sons, Michaels, 700,000 Michaels we're talking about. They also donate or they bestow themselves upon their local universes with three main purposes. The first, to learn about how their own children live and also earn experience. Second, to gain and donate more love and mercy for all of the children. And third, to obtain the total sovereignty of their universe, the universe they themselves created. So Michael of Nebadon, our own creator's son, had seven bestowals as a creature. First, he became a Melchizedek in a sphere as Melchizedek of Nebadon. Then he became Lanandek's son, and placing Lutentia, the rebel, temporarily third. He bestowed himself as a material son, as an atom, and as a planetary prince of planet 217 in the local system 87 from the constellation 61. 4. He bestowed himself as seraphim of the Supreme Order from the angels of Nebadon, assigned as an advisor of teaching. Fifth, he became ascendant pilgrim in Uversa, in the capital of the super university of Orbantan, with the name of Evan Tod. His sixth bestowal was Morontia Mortal in the courts of the Most Highs in the constellation of. I get here the admissions. I can't really read what I'm saying because there's but as you know, the seventh bestowal happens in our humble planet Urantia. Well, Jesus' mission in his seventh self bestowal occurred one, to reveal the universal Father, to tell us that we have only one God, the universal Father. Second, so he can gain sovereignty of the local universe of Namadan. Third, to acquire experience as a creature, as a human being here in this planet. Fourth, to end the Lucifer rebellion. Fifth, to live life out Ampia and be an example for all of his universe, which means that the teachings of Jesus, what he taught us, what the legacy he left us, is not only something he's leaving to us, to the humanity of this planet, but rather it serves for every inhabited planet, which are 6.8 million, some or somewhat amount of inhabited planets, and also for um, these architectural planets. Before bestowing, or before Michael of Nabadon was bestowed, he asked Gabriel. Remember who Gabriel was? He was the bright morning star. He was the first created being that Michael of Nabadon created and the divine minister created. That's Gabriel. He is the chief of the armies of the heavens. He is the first created being. So he asked him and ordered because he was executioner of the orders of Michael. And he continues to do so. He asked to choose Urantia because he had already chosen a planet. He told them to choose the actual people and what people he should come in after he had already chosen Urantia as a planet. And I think Gabriel personally chose the Jewish people because at this moment it was the people that most that had the highest elevated religion at that time towards God. And then after choosing the Jewish people for his bestowal, Michael asked Gabriel to choose three Jewish families for his bestowal. And Joseph showed him the three families, and finally they chose Joseph and Mary. So with this historical background, let's look at Jesus's parents. Joseph, the human father of Jesus, Joseph ben Joseph, was a Hebrew amongst the Hebrews, even though he possessed many non-Jewish traits that every once in a while had been added to his family tree through the female lines of his previous families. He was he was part of the bloodline of Abraham, and through this patriarch, he belonged to even more older lineages that went back to the Nodites, Sumerians, and via the tribes of the previous all the way to down to the bloodline of Andan and Fanta. David and Solomon were not a direct bloodline of Joseph, nor were they direct um, relatives of Joseph. But what the Bible says in the New Testament that Jesus was part of the bloodline, and since he was born of David, and since he was born in Bethlehem, and David also lived there, that Jesus is a direct descendant of David, and in that fashion, that's why he had to govern the Jewish people. But that did not happen, as we've seen, and as the Urantia book tells us. Maria, the earthly mother of Jesus, descended from extraordinary past with many women, the most notable in history in the Urantia. Even though Maria was a typical woman of her time and her generation, with a normal temper, amongst her people in her past and her genes, she had women such as Anna and Tamar, Ruth, Bethsaida, Ansia, Chloe, Eve, and Rata. From the racial point of view, it is not very appropriate to consider Maria as a Jew due to her culture and her beliefs. They were Jewish, but her genes were more of a combinations of Syrian, Hittites, Phoenicians, Greek, and Egyptian. Her racial inheritance is more heterogeneous than even that of Joseph. When Joseph was young, he was hired by Maria's father to build an addendum to the house. During lunch at noon one day, Maria took a cup of water to Joseph. And at that particular moment is when the courtship truly began of the two young people that were destined to become the parents of Jesus. Joseph and Mary were married according to Jewish custom in the house of Mary outside of Nazareth when Joseph was 21 years old. Look what it says here very clearly. When Joseph was 21 years old, that means that Joseph was no old man, widow, no old man that lost his wife, as they've taught us. He wasn't an old man that has lost his wife or widow, because after Jesus, he had 8 additional children. This wedding was after a 2 year courtship. A short time after they went to their new house of Nazareth that had been built by Joseph with the help of his two brothers. That house of Jesus of Nazareth was a home with only one big room. It had stone walls. The terrace was flat. If you continue to read the Urantia book, a bit later on, it narrates exactly when Jesus, going down the stairs of that terrace, fell down because of some sand. And I'm not sure exactly if they actually, the midwayer got reprimanded for it, the one that was taking care of him. Well, this stone house in the center, they had a wooden table to eat, and they had clay pottery, Outside of the house, they had a cover for cattle, but the only cattle that they had was a mule or a donkey, and they also had a cover to have a stone grinder. And the book says that when Jesus was 4 or 5 years old, he would help Maria to grind wheat, putting wheat on the rocks in the mill to grind the wheat. The Annunciation of Gabriel to Maria. One afternoon, when the sun set before Joseph went back home, Gabriel appeared before Mary next to a very small stone table. That's the table I told. After she caught her breath again, he said, I came by the order of my master, whom you will love and whom you will feed. You, Maria, I bring you great news and announce to you that your conception has been ordered by heaven, and that when the moment arrives, you will be the mother of a child, and you will call him Joshua, and he will inaugurate the kingdom of heaven on earth and amongst men. Do not mention this to anyone except to Joseph and Isabel, your family member. Isabel was a cousin, I think second degree cousin, he- whom I've appeared as well to, and that very soon she'll give light to a child whose name will be John. He will prepare the way for the message of liberation that your child will proclaim with great force and with deep conviction before man. Never doubt my words, Maria. But this home has been chosen as the human living grounds of the child of destiny. My blessings may accompany you. The power of the Most High will strengthen you, and the Lord of this earth will protect you. Very well. On the month of March in the year 8 BC, on the month where Joseph and Mary got married, Caesar Augusto decreed that all inhabitants of the Roman Empire had to be counted, that we had to have a census to improve the tax system. Jewish people had always been against every attempt to number the people. This fact added to the great internal difficulties that Herod, the king of Judea, had contributed to the delay of this wedding in the Jewish kingdom. All in Roman Empire. The census happened on year 8, except in the kingdom of Herod in Palestine, where 1 year later, we're talking about year 7 BC. Well, the trip to Bethlehem. It wasn't necessary for Maria to go to Bethlehem. Well, the head of the family had to go to the place where they were born, him and his family. So therefore, Joseph wanted to go alone. However, Maria did not allow him to go alone. So Joseph was authorized to register his family, but Maria, she was a intrepid person and very decided, and it doesn't say stubborn, but I'm sure she was a bit stubborn. I think Mother Maria. She insisted in accompanying him, and she was afraid to stay alone, and she didn't want him to be born during absence of Joseph. And due to the fact that Bethlehem was not so far from the city of Judah, Maria foresaw the possibility of visiting her cousin Isabel in the city of Judah. Very well. Jose and Maria took 3 days to arrive. Gerardo spoke about this earlier. It took them like 3 days. On the first night, they slept. The first night, they slept near Mount Sartavo. The next night, they slept in Jericho. There, they met with a lot of people that were moving towards their places of birth. There, Joseph became good friends with a person that helped him later on with the lodging. So, lodging, when they arrived, all the lodging was full because of the census. There was no place to stay. So, Joseph tried to look for some family members to allow him to stay there, but all the rooms were full. When he went back to the back room, they informed him that the stables for caravans near the rocks, located right underneath the lodging, they had been emptied from their animals. They had been cleaned to receive guests as well. That's where they mentioned that animals were there in the birth of Christ or Jesus, but they were not really there because these were previously cleaned and gotten ready for the visitors coming back for the census. So, leaving his donkey in the backyard, he put down his provisions and he descended. Joseph descended with Maria, went down to the bottom part. They went to what used to be a grain in front of the stables, and they had put up some curtains, and they considered themselves to be very fortunate for having found such a comfortable lodging. That's what the book says. They said it was a comfortable lodging. It wasn't cold inside of this. Well, the birth of Jesus. It's in document 122, 8.1. Maria couldn't sleep all night, so none of the two could sleep. In the morning, she started to feel birth pains, and at noon on August 21st of the year 7 BC, with the help and the generous assistance of traveling women such as her, Maria gave birth to a boy. And I repeat this, and at noon of the 21st of August of the year 7 BC, with the help and the assistance and the generous assistance of some travelers such as her, Maria gave birth to a male boy. Jesus of Nazareth had been born to the world. He was wrapped in clothes that Maria she had brought due to precaution, and she laid next to a small nativity scene. The boy of promise had been born exactly in the same fashion as every other child that before him and after him had come into the world. On the eighth day, according to Jewish custom, he was circumcised and he was officially named Jeshua or Jesus. On that noon, this is also very interested in document 122, 8.5. That day where Jesus was born, the seraphim of Urantia that were meeting under the orders of their directors. I think that one of the directors was Salomnia, the seraphim from the Garden of Eden, I believe so. I'm not sure if I'm wrong. But from the seraphims, they sang effectively hymns of glory in the nativity scene of Belen. But these expressions of worship were never heard by human ears. This has an explanation. Remember, human hearing has certain frequencies that we can hear from 2 hertz to 20,000 hertz, from 2 megahertz to somewhere. That is our range of hearing frequencies. And the melodies of seraphims are at a different range, way above, or I'm not even sure, they might be below those frequencies. So no creature, no more creature came to pay tribute to the child and those, except for the priests from Ur or the wise men that had been sent from Zechariah in Jerusalem. Remember, Zacharias was John the Baptist's father. In this graph, we have Maria and her son Jesus and the seraphims with their songs. We have seraphims with wings because that's how we've been told that seraphims are. That everything that flies has to have wings. That's how we were taught. But we know very well that seraphims do not have wings. That's what the Urantia book says. Well, the three wise men. Some time back, these priests from Mesopotamia had a revelation by a religious educator of the country that had had a dream where he was informed that the light of life was about to appear on earth as a child and amongst the Jews. And toward there, these three priests searched for this light of life. After many weeks of searching without finding him in Jerusalem, they were about to return to Ur when Zacharias met up with them and revealed his belief that Jesus was the object of their search, sent them to Bethlehem where they found the child and they left their gifts to Mary, the earthly mother. Well, I don't remember if the book says what gifts they were. I'm not sure, but the Bible says it was incense and gold and myrrh. The child was almost 3 weeks old when the visitors came. And the book says that no star guided these wise men to Bethlehem. The beautiful legend of the Star of Bethlehem came about in this fashion. Jesus was born on the year 7 BC at noon of August 21st. And he was born at noon on August 21st of year 7. And on May 29th of the same year, there was an extraordinary unison of Jupiter and Saturn in the constellations of Pisces. That constellation from Earth, we were able to see how there's like almost a union of these two planets. So I'm sure that's where there was greater brightness. So this happened on May 29th, where Saturn and Jupiter came together in a constellation of Pisces. And they said in the book that this is an astronomical things, that these conclusions occurred on the month of September or December, I believe. I can't really read here, but similar things happen on the 21st, 29th of September, and on 21st or 22nd of December. So that year, 3 different celestial occurrences happened. I personally think that the three wise men,
si vieron alguna luz de esa conjunción y se desplazaron desde la ciudad de Ur hasta Jerusalén y luego a Belén. Bueno, después de esta pequeña intervención, esta pequeña charla, he rescatado unas conclusiones que también están en el libro de Urantia, en el documento 195, 2.10.1, y dice: en verdad, el cristianismo ha hecho un gran servicio a este mundo. Yo creo que sí, se ha hecho un gran servicio. Pero a quién más se necesita ahora es a Jesús, pero no al Jesús humano, al cuerpo de Jesús. El mundo necesita ver a Jesús viviendo de nuevo en la tierra en experiencia de los mortales nacidos del Espíritu. Desde la donación del Espíritu de la verdad, todos los seres humanos de mente normal tenemos el ajustador del pensamiento en nuestra mente superior y eso es nacer del Espíritu. Eso lo dijo el mismo Maestro Jesús. Estos mortales nacidos del Espíritu que revelan al Maestro eficazmente a todos los hombres. Es inútil hablar de un renacimiento del cristianismo primitivo. Ya no puede haber eso. Tenéis que avanzar desde el lugar donde os encontráis. La cultura moderna debe bautizarse espiritualmente con una nueva revelación de la vida de Jesús. Esa nueva revelación ya la tenemos en el libro de Urantia. Ahí está la vida de Jesús, ya tenemos esa revelación. Por eso dice que la cultura moderna debe bautizarse espiritualmente con una nueva revelación de la vida de Jesús. Ya la tenemos. E iluminarse con una nueva comprensión de su evangelio salvador. Y cuando Jesús sea elevado así, atraerá a todos los hombres hacia él. Los discípulos de Jesús. ¿Quiénes? Nosotros, los que le estamos siguiendo a Jesús, deberían ser más conquistadores, incluso fuentes desbordantes de inspiración y de vida realzada para todos los hombres. La religión no es más que un humanismo elevado, hasta que se hace divina mediante el descubrimiento de la realidad de la presencia de Dios en experiencia personal. La presencia de Dios en nosotros, que ya la tenemos, esa chispa divina, ese ajustador del pensamiento. Muchas gracias.
Ok, Gabriel El Pino quiere hacer una pregunta.
Okay, Gabriel, somebody wants to ask you a question. I just saw my sister Patty as well, Patricia Dabun.
Ok, Gabriel, you can
Welcome.
speak. Gabriel,
Gabriel, puedes hablar. Well, thank you very much, Efrain. Congratulations. I really loved your intervention. In terms of that framework of that talk that you gave, obviously you had to touch upon the issue of Jesus's earthly family, specifically speaking, Joseph and Mary, and everything that was lived and what they had to live when they were traveling from Nazareth to Bethlehem, and talking about, and in the previous talk with Gerardo, all of this meant that they had to move over 200 kilometers. Maria was pregnant. And that implies many things that, from what you mentioned, the acceptance of being the mother of Jesus, all the way to the protection that was provided in the first few years. As my own personal reflection, I've been able to observe in different groups I participate in that the human person of Jesus, the earthly mother of Jesus, is sometimes not very respected, really. Obviously, from my own training, I have a background in a lot of love for the Mother of God in my upbringing, and that's what we call her. So I see that many of the readers of the Urantia book do not have a certain level of respect or an adequate respect when they refer to her. So I'm not sure if you can highlight something related to that maternal and paternal figure, the family members of Jesus, and what is your opinion in that regard? Thank you very much.
Bueno,
Well,
nosotros ya sabemos que,
we all know already that Joseph, the father of Jesus,
en primer lugar,
first of
después
all,
del anuncio
after the announcement
que María iba
that Maria
tenía una concepción, ¿sí?
was actually going to conceive a child,
La concepción ocurrió el día
the
anterior
conception happened a day before
Gabriel.
the visit by Gabriel, remember.
Y el libro nos
And the
dice, la
book
revelación
tells
nos
us,
enseña
and the
que
revelators
los
tell us that neither
pueden
them
saber, pueden encontrar
know or they
cómo
cannot
ocurrió
find
esto.
how this happened.
Y dicen que es el
And they
misterio
say
de los
that
misterios.
it's the mystery of
Mejor
mysteries,
nos valiera no ponernos a
that
interpretar
let's
mentalmente
not even try to mentally try to think about how this happened,
es un
how Jesus was
milagro de los
actually
revelaciones. Bueno,
conceived, not even the revelators.
dice
No.
que
So after
María ya
Mary or Maria
estaba embarazada.
was pregnant,
Días después, no
a
recuerdo
few days later, I can't remember exactly what time, like a month later, I believe, she had a dream
espiritual se le
with a
apareció
spiritual being that appeared to her,
a José para decirle
to Joseph, that appeared to
que era
Joseph,
cierto
to say
que
that
María
it was
estaba,
true that Maria
estaba embarazada, que
was
estaba
truly
esperando
pregnant and
un
was awaiting a
que era
child whom would be
el Hijo de Dios
the
mismo.
Son of God Himself.
Él aceptó
So he accepted it.
esto y ya se puso
He
a
accepted
trabajar
this
para
and
ello.
started to work in this mission as
Nosotros
well.
sabemos
We
todas las
know
dificultades que
all the
tuvo José y
difficulties that
María.
Joseph and Mary had to go through.
Ustedes son los
All
que
these difficulties are what
nos levantan a nosotros los
uplift
seres
us,
humanos. Estas
human beings.
dificultades nos
These
hacen
difficulties elevate us. They
progresar, son
make
parte de
us
nuestra
progress.
evolución.
They're part of our
Como
evolution.
sabemos, Jesús
And as we
pasó
know,
por las
Jesus went
diferentes
through all
evoluciones
the
como
different
humanos.
evolutionary stages that humans go
Alcanzó
through.
el ápice
He
de su
reached the
evolución
apex of
material,
evolution, material
mental y
evolution, mental
espiritual.
evolution, and spiritual
Cuando él
evolution.
tenía unos,
When he was,
qué sé yo,
I
25
think,
años por ahí,
25 years old, more or
alcanzó
less,
ya la etapa
he
límite
reached the
de su
apex
estatura
of his physical
espiritual,
stature,
mental
his mental growth as
y
well,
físico.
and
¿Verdad?
physical
Una
growth,
estatura
right? It was a
más
height
o menos
of
elevada,
more or
más o
less
menos alrededor de
close
1,85,
to
90 metros.
185 or 1.190 or 1 meter
Y
point
al
nine.
ser bautizado
And when he was baptized
Río Jordán por
in the
Juan,
Jordan River by
alcanzó
John,
el ápice
he
de la
achieved the
evolución
apex
espiritual
of spiritual
cuando
evolution
salió de
when he
su
left,
mente, salió su
when from his mind, his thought adjuster left his mind, and
pronunció las palabras
he
estas,
pronounced those words,
me siento
my beloved
complacido, lo
son,
tengo
on
complacencia.
whom I feel very pleased.
El
That's
ápice de
where
su
he achieved
evolución,
the apex of his
nosotros los seres
evolution.
humanos,
We
aquí en el
human
planeta
beings
de Urantia no
here
alcanzamos
in
esa
the Urantia planet
evolución,
are
nosotros
not at
sabemos
that
que en
evolutionary
algún
level, yet
momento,
we know, and the book
luego de
tells us
nacer en el
that
quinto sexto
very
año de
surely in
existencia,
the fifth or
tendremos
sixth
nuestro
mansion world, we will probably
pronunciador del
achieve
pensamiento.
unison with our thought adjuster,
El ajustador nuestro nos
and
decía
our thought
estas
adjuster
palabras.
will tell us those same words.
Le dijo a él, este es
And
mi
his
hijo
thought
querido.
adjuster says, "This is my beloved son, who I'm very pleased with."
Bueno,
Very well.
Thank, thank you very much. We are taking a break now, and then we will continue with the next presentation. Efrain, thank you very much. Y
muchas gracias a todos.
hasta la
No, I want to
próxima.
thank everyone here. Thank you for having listened to me. Have a
Thank,
great afternoon.